Our offices are located on Buganda Road Flats, and we are a family-focused organization supporting parents right from preconception. And so many new and exciting things are happening with us, and we know that this year we'll be able to unveil many of them, and we look forward to you being part of this. So thank you very much, everyone. Today we have a very interesting topic. It's very long. It is very long since we last discussed this topic, which we are discussing today, about work-life balance. And it is a topic that we can never exhaust, and it's a topic that we can never put aside, because many of us every day, every time we come into new challenges concerning work, you were promoted to another a new position, it is busier than the first position, or you got a new job. So I believe that we cannot evaluate ourselves and say that I am balanced now and I will forever be balanced as a parent, as an individual. So we have to assess ourselves all the time to see if we are in balance, if the boat is balancing. And so it's very exciting for us to be discussing this topic today, and also to have someone who is capable of addressing this topic with honesty and with experience that is relevant. So thank you so much, Mrs. Grace Makoko, for allowing to be our speaker today. I know how busy you are and how many things demand for your position, but I always feel good when you prioritize Mama Tendo for, in spite of your busy schedule. So I want to say thank you very much for putting us on your schedule, in spite of being quite engaged. And I hope that we'll have a fruitful discussion. I hope that we'll be able to open up and share our challenges, because it's through sharing that things become dynamic. As we share, we find solutions. As we share, our thinking is provoked. So don't just listen and keep quiet, but I'm looking forward to a participatory meeting where we will discuss after the presentation and find solutions. Right now, without wasting more time, I would like us to start with a word of prayer. I can see Caroline Batanda online, and I always see you in these meetings. So can I ask you, please, you lift up this meeting with a word of prayer before we invite our speaker. Okay,
and thank you for the honor for leading the prayer. Let's bow our heads and close our eyes. Lord Jesus, we thank you for this time that you've enabled us to gather together as parents, as mothers, working fathers who may be here, working guardians. We thank you for this time. We thank you for the internet. We thank you for the hosts, the organizers. We thank you for the words of wisdom. And may we be able to receive them and be able to implement them. May you guide us through this whole session, that it may be a truly learning and sharing experience for all of us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Carol, and thank you so much for always attending these meetings. As I said already, our speaker is Grace Makoko. She's a mother of 3 beautiful daughters. She's a banker by profession. That is what she has done most of her life. And she's really an expert in financial markets. So she's traded on the East African market. She's traded on the Ugandan market. She's an expert on investment options. If you want to invest, to know if you should put in bonds, if you should put where, if you should invest in bonds, if you should invest in treasury bills, the person to inquire from, the person to educate you and explain to you all things is none other than Grace Makoko. She worked with Standard Chartered Bank for so many years, and she headed their global market. And she has done a lot of work in that area at the African and even global level. So the person who's going to speak to us is a person who is very suitable for addressing the topic at hand, because she's been a very busy professional, and yet she has been a wife and a mother as well. So thank you very much, Grace. Thank you very much. You've been with Mama Tendo for so many years, and it always gives me pleasure to welcome you. So you are most welcome to address our topic today, when to know you are out of balance with family because of work. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mama Tendo, for those very kind words. Just before I start, every so often my internet acts up. If it does, I might go for maybe 30 seconds, 45, then come back on. So just bear with me. Please confirm that you can hear me. You can give me a thumbs up, or Mama Tendo, you can say you can hear me.
Yes, personally, I can hear you. Can you have thumbs up?
Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm hoping, since you can hear me, everyone. Oh, okay, so I've got a confirmation so people can hear me. Now, for purposes of just stability, I'm going to turn off my camera. I always prefer to have my camera on. It makes it more personal, but given the instability, it might be better to have the camera off, and maybe I'll put it back on during Q&A. So just to confirm that I'm not a robot, it's actually me. So I'll turn the camera off now so that we can have a better experience. So when Mama Tendo, I've known Mama Tendo for now, 24 years, coming 24 years. When she approached me to speak about this subject, I did not hesitate. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Really, in many ways, Mama Tendo is the one who discovered me. She was writing a column when she was expecting Tendo. And she was walking us through the journey in New Vision, month 1, month 2, and what. And somehow, I think I had my firstborn at that time. And yeah, we gelled. Now, Mama Tendo, I wanted to ask for some stats, but I realized, I wanted to have an idea of, is it just parents here in terms of the demographic, the age, so that I can be relevant, but it might be very hard for you to tell who is in what age bracket. I'll assume that most people are 45 and above. That was just an assumption. I don't know, Mama Tendo, if that is a fair assumption. Are we talking to mostly people who are already parents, already married, already parents?
Actually, I would say, Grace,
yes,
you
I
are
can hear you.
talking to people who are probably 30 and above, mostly.
30 and above. Okay. Okay. Would you know, are they married parents, or it could be a...
Most of them are parents. All of them are parents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so I'll just start with a little background about myself, really by way of a story. My husband says I'm a storyteller, and yeah, maybe that's right. I just want to give you some context on how I started this journey and why this is why this topic is pertinent. I keep seeing prompts about people in the waiting room, so I don't know, Tendo, if those are also reaching you. So,
Ellen, I think, is overseeing that.
okay.
Ellen.
Okay, so Mama Tendo, and I'll address you since, but as I address Mama Tendo, it's really, I'm addressing all of you. So, one of the things that has greatly influenced my life, and I guess that's the same for almost everyone, is the families we grew up in, our parents, what we saw, our childhood. I grew up in a home where my mom celebrated homemaking. She celebrated being a homemaker. She celebrated children. So in our home, children were celebrated, as in everything about her was about her children and about children generally. My mom was from a polygamous family. My maternal grandfather had over, my mom's, they're over 100. They were over 100. He had over 100 children, over 30 wives. These 30 wives were not at one go. So he would have maybe like 4 or 5, or maybe a period of 6 to 10 years. Then he moves to, they say the beautiful ones are not yet born. He moves to another, younger wives. And then he moves to, like, he will have in that next younger group, there'll be another 5. And then so something like that. Polygamy was common in that day. So that's my maternal grandfather. He was called Dasan Matovu. My maternal grandmother was a lady called Deborah Narule. Deborah Narule, Mommy's mom, she was called number 10. And that's the last wife that was counted that way. So the wives above. So my judges, we had judges that were number 2. And it's crazy. That's how we just knew her number 10. But it turns out that it was named, it was a chronology that showed the 5th wife. Now, the interesting thing about my grandmother as number 10, number 10 was known for liking kids. She really liked children. And at that time, when my grandfather was in a particular home for holidays, all the children would be sent to that home. And the children used to like going to number 10's home because number 10 was into children. It was really, really big time into children. And the ladies lived near each other. The homesteads were near each other. And the other wives realized that because number 10 liked children, when they were busy, they would send their children to my grandmother, that Deborah Narudi. Deborah really, really was into children. And they also knew that she did not like housework. She didn't like going to the well. She didn't like going to collect firewood. She didn't like those chores. So they would send all that. They would sort of, I think, cut a deal with her that, okay, we'll go and fetch water for you. We'll fetch firewood. You look after the children. So she was. She grew up. Those children from those first 5 wives are very, very close. But because they grew up in Nabatano's home now, my mom, when we used to go to visit, my mom is from Luweero, Kalasa, I would hear them telling stories about that. Ndibasaze, my mom's name her maiden name is Ndibasa Margaret. I say, Ndibasaze, again, akutandika kusomba obwana. My mom had a reputation when she was a teenager. She'd go collecting kids in the neighborhood. First of all, she'd get all the young kids of her father, her siblings. Then she would collect kids from the neighborhood and bathe them and feed them. So my mom was really into kids. And I remember one of my aunties saying that we always prayed for Ndibasa to have children because of the way she loved children, and it would have been so devastating if she was not able to have her own. And, they would laugh at her and say, Ndibasa, uya tanse asumba. Then she'll be getting left over to give the children what she's cleaned. And then, but as in those whose runs are running, but I don't think it's genetic. I think it's modeling. It was monkey see, monkey do. She had seen her own mom into kids, doing that with her siblings. Her own mom, my judge, Deborah Naule, was like that. And so my mom also took on that. I think, I'm convinced it's monkey. I don't think it's DNA. I think it's just monkey see, monkey do. So my mom marries my dad. And my mom I'm from a polygamous family. My mom wasn't my dad's only wife. She wasn't the first wife. She found a wife in the home. So she was a second wife. But because she was her dad's favorite child, and her father was very strict, he said my dad had to marry her in church. So my mom is the official wife, but she's not the first wife. My dad had another wife or wives before that. So my mom continued this thing of collecting children. So every time she'd go to the village, someone would tell her, oh, that is your husband's child, and should get the children. So I grew up with all my half siblings. My mom brought up all my dad's other children. And she would go, and once she found out that my dad had a child, because she was 10 years younger than my dad, he had another wife, he had other children. She would say, but now this child has a rich father. Why isn't the child in school? My mom would bring the child. So we grew up with my siblings. And that's why we're really close. We were brought up by my mom. And in this, I'm giving you a little detail in this story because my mom celebrated children that even my half-sisters were. The one thing that my sisters and brothers say about my mom is how she was a very good stepmom. My mom was into children, so she looked after us the way, like she took on these children like her own children, and she was like, yeah, these are our siblings, we should grow up together. So I grew up seeing my mom celebrating being a mom, celebrating being a homemaker, celebrating family. And that had a huge, huge influence on my life, huge, huge. And I didn't realize how much until I started to have my own children. So I thought I would give you that background, and you'll understand why when I come to some of the points I'll give. So one thing I've realized, and you learned, Mama Tendo, you mentioned that work-life balance is not a destination, it's a journey. We're on this journey, we're always, you face challenges, you deal with the challenges, you recalibrate where you because seasons change, the ebbs and flows of life are such that seasons are changing and circumstances are changing. So one thing that's clear when it comes to work-life balance is that our decisions decide our destiny. Decisions are not predetermined. No one can predetermine your decision. However, the consequences of our decisions are predetermined. And what do I mean? So no one can tell you must plant potatoes, or you must plant beans, or you must plant cassava. However, what is clear is that if you plant cassava, it's cassava you're going to harvest. If you plant potatoes, it's potatoes you're going to harvest. So our decisions, even today, we are living the consequences of decisions we made yesterday. Our decisions decide our destinies. So decisions are not predetermined. No one is going to prescribe for you what to do. However, once you make them, the consequences of those decisions are predetermined. So that's something that I want us to keep in the back of our minds. The other thing that I'll say around this work-life balance that is very important and which should be in the background as you talk. And that's what I was asking, are we talking to parents? Are we talking to married people? Who you marry is everything. It's a conversation I have with my children. Who you marry is everything. So if most of us here are already married, okay, that's it. We are already the wedlock. I'm not suggesting that you go and switch, but I'm just saying for anyone who is not married and I hear my voice, who you marry is everything when it comes to success in life, when it comes to pulling off even this work-life balance. It influences our decisions. So when I turned 21, I lost my dad. My dad died. I was on campus. In a polygamous family, when the family patriarch dies, all hell breaks loose. And that was just a very, very turbulent time in my life. So 10 years after my dad's passing, my mom passed, and I was 31 when my mom passed. I cannot begin to tell you the devastation of that event. I had only one child at the time, but I remember when we got up to say speeches about my mom, no one talked about my mom's external accomplishments. none of us and none of the children my mom had raised. My mom being a firstborn also raised her own siblings, so I have cousins on my mom's side, have cousins on my dad's side. So she was also raising children on my dad's nieces and nephews. But everyone, the speech they gave, the things they talked about mommy were things she'd done, things she'd said, her kindness. My mom we are convinced now that we know what OCD is. I think mommy was OCD. My mom was like super, super clean. Those are things we spoke about. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, no one talked about mommy as she was a guy as a girl. No one talked about her working career. No one talked about any of these, the office things. Everyone was talking about the home side. I was like, wow. So that really also greatly impacted me. It impacted my priorities once, and we used to call my mom Muchala Mama. Once Muchala, and when I say Muchala Mama, I'm talking my mom. Once Muchala Mama died, it was, her death was, it influenced my priorities and what I think about what are the important things in life. So, and I want to start now against that context to give you what has been. I'll share my experience, and then some of the things will probably come up in the discussion when we open it up to dialogue. So I think when it comes to what has worked for me when it comes to work-life balance what has helped has been to know myself. They say know thyself. One's temperament plays a huge part in your life. One's character, your personality. And that's why work-life balance cannot be prescriptive. I can't prescribe. So the character temperament types. You have cholerics, you have the phlegmatics, you have the melancholics, you have the cholerics, and sanguines. So you really need to know yourself and what makes you happy for you to really nail this. So I've studied myself. I've accepted myself the way I am. I don't wish I was something else. So when I was younger, I wished I was something else. Now I've made peace with who Grace Tibbs is. Grace Tibbs is my maiden name. I've made peace with who Grace Tibbs is, Grace Makoko. But that factors into how I approach work-life balance. So what I found, Mama Tendo, helped me in getting this, and it was always an honor when people at the workplace would come and say, Grace, you're a role model of work-life balance. I never took that for granted. I got more referrals coming to me because of the work-life balance thing. And interestingly, it was the male bosses. Many of the male bosses in the bank would tell the people in their departments or in their sections, when they would see young ladies struggling, they say, go and speak to Grace Makoko. She will help you with work-life balance. And I'd never talked to these men. As in, it's not like I had sat down with them and, told them. But something about what I was doing was right. And they would send these young ladies. For me, that was really an honor. And then also the ladies at the workplace would come. But I can understand the ladies coming because we would talk. We were talking, so they knew. We would share our challenges. But for the guys to come, that was really, really an honor. So what worked for me, Mama Tendo, was to know and I think this is what I would highly recommend. You must be clear about your non-negotiables. What are your non-negotiables in life? And I found that for many of the people who I spoke to and I've spoken to in the course of my life, believe it or not, I turned 53 this year. Scandal. I still can't believe that. When we were young, people who were 50 were really old. And I don't feel old, but all I can say, I am scandalized by my age. Every time when my kids are scrolling down to get to 1972, they are laughing. They're saying, Mommy, we are still going. Now when you're feeling things in the digital space, we are still scrolling to get to the year of your birth. Yeah, so from the time I started having these conversations in my early 30s, late 20s to now, I realized that you struggle more with the work-life balance if you're not clear on what your non-negotiables are. And I'll explain a bit what non-negotiable means. I have, so let me give you the example of my non-negotiables. I've always had 3 main non-negotiables. And this is over and above my faith. So my faith is a non-negotiable, but okay, so keep that in the background. That's a given. So I've always had 3 main non-negotiables over and above my faith. The first is I'm very driven, and I'm saying that, but let me just say that I'm a high achiever. When you say driven, it has negative connotations. If you say I'm ambitious, it's seen as negative. So let's use the word high achiever. But what I'm saying is that I'm driven. So I'm a high achiever, and I made up my mind that I'm climbing the corporate ladder, and I'm taking David. My husband is David Makoko. I'm taking David and the girls with me. I had seen in life how many high-achieving women had great success at the expense of their marriages and their children, relationship with their children, at the expense of their family. Let's say that their marriages and their family. So for me, leaving David and the girls behind was not on the cards. Taking them along was a non-negotiable. So that was one of the things that, so it's like your North Star, my compass. I'm going up the ladder and I'm taking them with me. Now, what that means, Mama Tendo, is that the implication of that is that your career will inevitably slow down if you're going to take them with you, because you're climbing the ladder with them. And that's just a fact that I accepted. I'm going up with him and the kids, and I'm going to do what it takes. I'll speak a little detail more on that, but so that was a non-negotiable. I'm not going to do anything that will jeopardize my marriage or relationship with my kids. The second non-negotiable I had, and I've always had, is financial independence. And that's a story I've told over and over again. I won't go into the details, but being needy that's not my portion. I had to be financially independent, and I was going to do whatever it takes. So that was a non-negotiable also. The third non-negotiable was my size, or my health. So I decided one day that I'm a size 14. That's it. And I told myself that it's settled in heaven. I'm a size 14. I decided this is not my natural size. So, and those who saw me when I was pregnant, you go to see what my natural size is. My natural size, if I just allowed everything, it would be a size 18 or a size 20. That's my natural size. And we saw that every time I was pregnant and every time I was breastfeeding, I was in the size 18 area. So I decided one day that I'm a size 14. So you know how you can make up your mind that I am a redhead, even though you don't have red hair, you dye your hair red. I say I'm a decided redhead. Me, I'm a decided size 14. And that is a non-negotiable. So I will do whatever it takes to be that size. And I'll give you a little more detail about that. So those 3 non-negotiables have determined how I have worked out this work-life balance. And what I've realized, like with everything in life, we are interested in things. You know, you say, I'm interested in being financially independent. I'm interested in being healthy. I'm interested in being fit. I'm interested in having a work-life balance. I'm interested in making my marriage work. I'm interested in being close to my children. The problem, Mama Tendo, that what we are fighting with, what we are battling is how do we move from interest to commitment? That's where the rubber hits the road. Most of us, I would say all of us under the hearing of my voice, you're interested in work-life balance, but the commitment to get there, that's what we are battling, and it's a daily struggle. So I'm going to speak along those 3 points. So my family, and this I've just compressed it into this because that's what time allows. But when I say family, I'm thinking my siblings, I'm thinking my close friends, but I'll just limit it now to my nucleus family. But at the back of your mind, just know that I'm into family because, and for me, I did not grow up. I have never grown up in a nucleus family. My dad was a head of his family. My mom was firstborn. So even growing up, we never had less than 30 people in the home. If you add a extended family, but also my half brothers and sisters. So when I say family, I'm really, really into family. But for the purpose of this talk, I'm talking about my nucleus family. So I wanted to know this. So under family, so I needed to breastfeed exclusively. I breastfeed exclusively for 9 months. That's a lot of work. I can't even begin to tell you. That's just a lot of work. I decided I needed to, so that meant that I had to cut out certain things for that to happen. And one of the things that I'll speak here because it stumbled some people, but then they forgive me after that. When I get to so I have problematic pregnancies, but when I get to about 6 months pregnant, I stopped going to church to attend church service. And then from 6 months of pregnancy to when my baby turns 1, I don't step in church. Because, the pregnancy, I have complicated pregnancy, so I'm on bed rest. But I go to work, but I'm in weekend, I'm bed rest. Once I have the baby, making milk takes a lot of work. You have to rest. If you're going to breastfeed exclusively for 9 months, as in the child will not take anything other than breast milk for 9 months, you have to rest a lot. You have to be in the horizontal position a lot. So I don't step in church from 6 months of pregnancy to when my baby is 1 year. So I'm out of church for about 18 months. And that's just, like I say, those are my non-negotiables. I was like, yeah, God has given me these children, I'm going to breastfeed them. So, but like I said, priorities are the ones which my priorities, my non-negotiables are driving these decisions. Then Mama Tendo, I enjoy wifing and mothering. That's just who I am. I enjoy being a wife. I enjoy being a mother. And because I grew up in a home where my mom celebrated wifing and mothering, it's 100% monkey see, monkey do, because I see it with my sisters. We all sort of run our lives the same way. So I invested a lot of time just wifing and mothering. And when I say wifing and mothering, so I didn't have a maid before I had kids. I do my own housework. I did my own housework. I cooked my own meals for my husband. So unfortunately or fortunately for me, depending on how you see it, when we got started, David and I took time to have children. When the children came, I then got a nanny. And that's where some of the drama started. My husband decided he was not going to eat the maid's food. So he basically rioted when the maid cooked and did not cook his food properly. So I saw stars. I would come home from work to cook for Makoko. And my husband he's not going to make a fuss. He would just put one fork in his mouth and turn that and look at me and say, "You're not the one who cooked this food." And then open the fridge and get bread and eat. And I tell myself, but this man, he has bought his food. He has paid for gas. Basically, he's done his part. Why is he eating bread? So I decided, you know what, Grace, cook for that man. He has been, we were 3 years without a child. A child came in the 3rd year. So he's been used to eating this food. You have spoiled him. Basically, carry your monkey. So those in Stanchart, like some child I'm talking about the call, they knew how I would leave at exactly 5 to go and cook for Mr. Makoko. And because for me, I grew up seeing that celebrated, it was not drudgery. I did not dread it. I did not resent it. I was like, hey, the man is used to eating my food. I'm a good cook. Let me go and cook. So that affected my schedule. And I'm going to tie all this together I'm just giving you what influenced how I ran my shop. So that's it. So I knew that I had to leave work in time. I needed to leave work in time to go and be a mother and a wife. And like I said, I enjoy wifing and mothering, and I like cooking for my family. The other thing that was clear is that I needed to live near the kids' school. This whole thing of waking up at 4 a.m. to be on the road by 5 to take children to school, I can't handle. I'm a low energy person. I'm not like that. I can't handle that. So when David and I got married, we lived in Naria. And we had zeroed in on a school, a good school, but the school was in Kansanga. And we were having to wake up at 5, even at that time. This is 2004, 5. To wake up to be in time to David dropped me at work and then take the child to school. So it wasn't going to work. We needed to move and be near the school so that we lived 8 minutes from the school. We drop the children at school, and then come to work. And then if there's any picking the kids, if we can't pick, the nanny can walk there and get the kids. So that helped because that also takes up a lot of time, and I see many ladies in the workplace, they come late, even guys, parents, because of dropping and picking kids. So for me, I had to leave, and always I choose where I live based on the children's school. So even when I moved to Nairobi as an expatriate, my boss was asking me where I'm going to live. I said, I need to first place the kids in school, then I'll leave. So that I'm near the kids' school. It's just less stressful. Then I want to be heavily involved in my children's education. I want to read with my kids. But the one thing my mom did was read with us. Everyone who was brought up by my mom, all of us, her biological kids and the other kids, my mom she was into reading. I remember Peter and Jane, by the time I started kindergarten, by the time I started P1, I was on 11B. Most of my classmates at that time were starting 1A, 1B. So I read Peter and Jane. I read my mom read to us and made us read. So reading is a big thing. And my kids are avid readers, but that you have to invest time in that. So all that takes time, and you just have to that's where priorities come in, and you have to start prioritizing, because all these things are being thrown at you. So what I found to help me in all of this was my home runs on a system. And that's a whole other story, but my home runs on a system. And I'll tell you a story today. I got some ice cubes out of the ice tray, and I was telling my daughter that, since there's only 4 left, let's fill up the ice tray with water in the empty slots and put it in the freezer. And she said, no, mommy, that's not how the system works. Remember, our home works on a system. Basically, she was enjoying me, because that's what I always said. We work on a system, and things have to run a certain way, but that's the only way I could do it. So let me leave that pillar. There is more in that pillar, but it will come up along the way. But that meant that to just run my system, I needed a nanny who is not from Chanamkaka. I don't hire those Chanamkaka nannies. I hire a nanny who you pay a UN rate, and they can do some of the things so that to free yourself up. They say if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. So if you bring those maids from Kiriandongo, you're going to struggle with all these things. You're going to have to read for the kids. You're going to have to do all this, a lot more. There's a lot more heavy lifting. The other thing, which I'll touch briefly on, Tendo, and I start weaving this together. My financial independence goals were also, so I needed to be financially independent. I needed to make money. I needed to have money. So I worked out quite early in my life that I need to go for promotions, because salary increments, they just give you 6%. They give you inflation adjusted. Promotions, your salary can double and treble. So I needed to get promotions. And to do that, I had to cut out certain things. So I can count on the fingers of one hand how many times I went to the staff canteen and ate lunch. In the 15 years I was in Stanchat, Uganda, I can count on the fingers of one hand and not have many fingers left. Why? I cut out lunch because I had to. First of all, it was the nature of my job. The market is that financial markets, the markets are busy between midday and 2. But also 2, I needed to leave at 5. Because remember, Makoko doesn't eat the maid's food. So I had to put in the hours. I had to get to a point where Stanchat wouldn't feel that they're competing with David, and David doesn't feel he's competing with Stanchat for my attention. So I needed to get that balance. How do I make sure that David is not feeling that Stanchat is taking up too much time, but also how do I get Stanchat, my line manager, to realize, to say that I'm giving it everything. So I needed to give 100% attention to Stanchat between 8 and 5 p.m. And then I had to give 100% attention to Makoko and Makokolets from 5 p.m. That boat, you talked about balance, about that boat was very, very tough to balance. I got to a point where I got 3 promotions, 3 jobs came up that were expatriate roles during my career, during the first 15 years. And all the time, my husband said, you go, and you can go with the kids. And I was like, no way. He says, no, Grace, you go and go with the kids. Me, I'm okay. And I'll be like, David, if you're not coming, I'm not going. And I'll tell you, for me, why that was so, so poignant, why it was so important. And that's why I said it was my non-negotiable. At about that time, I don't know you guys, I won't say the name, but those who know will know her. We had a very prominent female politician. She was an MP and she had been elevated to a very, very high position in this country. And it was the first woman to hold that position. And there was a debate in Parliament about husbands, about, I think it was domestic violence, and generally men. And she said, if my husband beat me, I would just write him a check and pay back his dowry. Her marriage was on the rocks. The husband was drinking. He was an engineer, by the way. He wasn't just riffraff. But he was drinking. He was in the gutters. It was just so bad. And I thought to myself, Grace, that can never happen to you. You're going with this man up the ladder. So when David was saying no, because my boss would ask me, are you mobile? Are you mobile? And I would say no. Because my husband was immobile. I was like, if he's not coming with me, I'm not going. And in my case, it was very, very important. That decision was a major thing for me because my own husband is a casualty of a dangerous substitute. My mother-in-law went to study. She was, the colonial government used to take the royal family, people from the royal family, their children, that they'll take the kings, but also their children to London to study. So my mother-in-law was a chief's daughter. My husband is from Mbale. They don't have kings, but they have chiefs. So the first, he was a chief there, was called Chief Wandawa. He was sent to the UK to my husband. While she was gone, she went for 2 years to the UK. My father-in-law got a dangerous substitute. When she left, my husband was 18 months. She came back 2 years later, and my husband had regressed. She left a child who was potty trained, who was feeding himself. She found someone who was, he had regressed completely. Cognitive issues, he was messed up by that. And the husband got a dangerous substitute. My father-in-law was a non-resident dad. You remember on campus how people, I don't know if now that system is still there, but you remember on campus how you had non-residents and they would be allocated to a hall. Like Africa Hall, we had non-residents. And they had a meal card. They would come for meals, but they wouldn't stay. Didn't have accommodation. That's how my father-in-law was. So he would come home, they would see him at lunchtime, he would eat, and then he'd go and spend the night with that other dangerous substitute in that home. He had another family. So I looked at David and I'm like, Grace, why are you playing around? This man is a casualty. Yes.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Grace. We are not hearing you very well. Some words
Yes.
are not coming out very well. Is there any way you can elevate your voice, please?
Okay. Okay. Has it just started, or it has been that way the whole time?
It's most of the time, yes. Been like that.
Oh, sorry.
We were
But I
hearing,
moved.
but okay.
Yes. Okay. Okay. All right. Let me elevate my voice. So, is there any particular place part you haven't heard, or you're saying you are hearing every other word?
I was hearing, I don't know about others, but it was a bit low.
Okay.
So that's why
is
I've requested
is
to
it
elevate.
better? Because now I'm speaking right
Yes.
into the microphone. I've lifted the microphone. Okay. So I was saying that, so my
It's
husband,
better.
yeah. So one of the reasons I couldn't take those promotions, and they are really good promotions, was my husband wasn't mobile. So I told myself, Grace, this man is a victim of he's a casualty of a dangerous substitute. Myself, I told you in my introduction that my mom was my dad's first wife. What happened is my dad's first wife, who was the love of his life, everyone in the village would tell us how that was my dad's childhood sweetheart. So when my dad came to Kampala, because once you got educated, you came to Kampala and all the jobs were here, my dad asked that wife of him to come and join her here in Kampala. For where I come from, we call this side Buganda, to come to Buganda. So when you come from Kampala, you go to the Bai village in Fort P. They tell you in Fort Portal, they say, hey, no Buganda, you're coming from Buganda. That's how they refer to Kampala at this end. So my dad said, I'm going to Buganda. I'm going to be based in Buganda. You come. But because now he was high up in government, he said, I'm going to be entertaining people. I'm going to be invited to state functions. I'm going to take you to an adult literacy course so you learn English. This, my stepmom, she was a very beautiful lady and very sought after. She was very, very beautiful. And I guess in a sense, she had done my dad a favor to marry him. That kind of thing. So she told him, hey, now that you've become educated, I'm not good enough for you. I have to learn English because now so you think, and she said, you know what? Since you're going to Buganda, marry a Muganda girl. Go and marry a Muganda girl. So my dad tried to persuade her, got his brothers, got everyone to try and pursue her. He really liked that stepmom of mine. At that point, they had 3 children together, a boy and 2 girls. Anyway, after 2-3 years of failing to convince her, my dad got a Muganda girl, who is my mom, and took her to church, married her because of her, because of my grandpa. I told you that bit of the story. So I told myself when these job opportunities came and said, Grace, you're playing around. One, you're a product of a dangerous substitute, because my mom came into the home as a dangerous substitute. You're a product of a dangerous substitute. Your own husband is a casualty of a dangerous substitute. You confuse yourself and go without him. So anyway, I turned down those promotions. So the 4th promotion is this one that I went for. I went and asked my husband. I said, there is this one. Are you mobile? I remember this happened at that time where the lady I told you who said I'll write my wife a check, my husband a check. It happened in that time, and it was in the news about working women and how women who are career women, how women who are high flyers, their marriages don't last. We had so many marriages at that time. Prominent people, marriages were breaking up, even within the banking industry. Very, very just tragic. There are just too many C-suite casualties around career advancement. So I told my husband that, my boss was called Saluma at that time. Saluma told me about this opportunity, but I'm going to turn it down because I'm assuming you're still not mobile. And he said to me, hey, Grace, now I'm the one killing your career. I'm standing at the end of your career. And he said, no, I'm mobile. You tell him you're mobile. I'll come. I'll go along. And then he said something that I will never forget. He just said, Grace, I hope I'm not a loser, because high-flying women marry losers. Oh, Mama Tendo, I'll go to my grave with that thing. He just said, I think so within the male circles, That's what men say when if a guy follows his wife, on a job. He said, I just hope I'm not a loser. Anyway, so career. I'll leave that. Let me leave that. Whatever. So, but I'm just giving you the basis of why I had to balance this boat. So I took on that promotion, and that's so many good things came out of it. I never. I got my master's when I turned at 49. I was not going to do a master's that was going to take me away from, because I was balanced that moving. I didn't need a master's anyway in the career I had chosen, but also I couldn't say I was going to balance the whole children thing, being a homemaker, wifing, mothering, chasing my car, and then studying. So I said, I just did my master's in 2021. So I didn't have a master's. I got opportunities to go for masters, by the way, but I told you my mother-in-law went for a degree and a master's, and we know how that movie ended. So, and like I said, for me, it was very clear in my mind that, and this is not a faith talk, but there's something called familiar spirits. So I was like, what, Grace, chill that one. Let me move to the another pillar. The third non-negotiable is around my health. So in deciding to be a size 14, it meant I had to diet and exercise. So we joined a group. Such started a group walking. The ladies would walk. A group of ladies would walk within Nakasero. All Saints would go into their World Vision. We had a route there that we would use. However, this exercise group, its issue was that people were not consistent. That thing of like fads, you do it for 3 weeks and then people start dropping off. Some people not keeping time. So I said, you know what? I really need to lose. I had this was 2006. I had my second baby. After my first baby, it was very easy for me to go back to my pre-pregnancy weight. My decided size 40. That one I went back quickly. But after the second child, I struggled. So I thought, you know what? These ladies, we are not going to the promised land. Let me start walking home. We lived in Nalia. And if you measure the distance, I asked my husband to measure for me the distance one of the days when he picked me. We measured distance from Grand Imperial to Tendo. The stage was 11 kilometers. So I started walking 3 times a week. I would walk home. The gym didn't work for me. It was too time consuming to drive to the gym, and then get into the car and drive back home. I said, at 5, let me hit the road. I walk. And I would do it, by the way, in 1 hour, 15 minutes. I was working with security guards, with maids, with people, KCCA workers. And I thought, that's when I realized that other jockeys were us who were in cars. Because I would kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I would get home, but I'd also get the workout. And just how you feel after that. So I started walking. I would come to work with a rucksack. So at 5, I change, put my handbag in the rucksack, put the clothes I'm in the rucksack, change into the walking clothes and hit the road. And when I would get, sometimes if I was early and I got to Tendo in good time, I would walk all the way to Nalia. But most times I would get onto a taxi. Onto a taxi in Tendo. So, but that was around my weight, non-negotiable. So I had to find a way to build that in. Also my exercise routine actually runs on a system. So now let me weave those 3 things together. So Mama Tendo, imagine I have to balance taking David and the girls with me up the corporate ladder. I have to stay size 14 and I have to become financially independent. Oh my God, it was tough, but I could pull it off because those were non-negotiables. So I didn't do town halls, anything after 5 in Sanchat I didn't do. And sometimes those things were career limiting, but I had to be so good at my job that it doesn't become career limiting. And those who know, and I've seen a couple of people from Sanchat, it was career limiting not to attend those things because you have a boss from out. One time I remember it was my daughter's birthday and this was in Kenya. We had a group boss and I thought, there is no way I'm missing my child's birthday because this man has come. So I didn't go. Oh, my boss had some tough words for me. One of my bosses, my land manager, He lived outside Kenya. He had flown into. But my CEO told me that, Grace, I know you're not coming for this town hall. I know you and your children and your husband. And he said, you go and be with your family. It shocked me. It shocked me. He said, go and be with your family. But I brought up my boss as well, in that they had learned not to expect me. One time I went for a town hall and the MD said, hey, Grace is here. I remember thinking to myself, God, I've brought him up so well. He understands that me, I don't account for these things. But that particular time town hall, I needed to make a presentation. So, but it was just amusing that he did not expect me, and he was like, hey, you're here. I told myself, Grace, you brought up this man so well. So why are you killing yourself coming for these town halls? So I never did anything after 5. It also affected socializing. I did, as long as my kids were a certain age, I wasn't going to go for social functions. I wasn't going to go. Weekends, I'm at home. But like I told Mama Tendo, I enjoy it. I enjoy mothering and wifing. I'm very domestic. I want to cook for my kids. I mend their clothes. I replace buttons. I need to teach them to be homemakers, and homemaking is monkey see, monkey do. So I had to put in a lot of time, and I cannot begin to tell you, it paid off so well. I just want to quote for you something that Buffett said. One of the people I really follow is Warren Buffett. Something he said that influenced, that reinforced that those choices. He says, if the people who should love you don't love you, you're in trouble. No matter how much money you make, no matter how many people admire you, if the people who should love you don't love you, you're in trouble. When they say who should love you, ideally your kids, your husband, your sibling, they should love you. He's not talking about, people out there, at the workplace, friends, relatives, in-laws, and well-wishers. He's talking about the people who should, not who would love you, but who should. And then one time he also said, I measure success by how many people love me. That's all that matters. That was Warren Buffett. And I thought, at that time he was the richest man when he said that. And I thought to myself, wow, I better smell the work. I better keep at this. So that was Uganda. And so that's, I would just say that what I would advise based on my experiences, have clarity around have non-negotiables. All the people who have struggled with work-life balance do not have non-negotiables. They are not clear. They don't have a clarity around this must happen. Because if you're clear, then you can prioritize it. And you see, no one can prescribe for you work-life balance. I have a friend who is extroverted. She likes to go out. She likes to be with her girlfriends. Now she can't, if you tell her to stay at home and wife and mother, she won't be happy. So she has to find within her schedule a way to go out, because she gets energy from people. And every time I had a chat with her, I would say that, you know what, I'm not a good example for you, because for me, I enjoy this. And for me, it's monkey see, monkey do. Just find a way to go out with your girlfriends and get that energy from them. So one of the strategies I know she took is, she's made her children, they've met in their friend group, their children are also friends, so that they go and do activities together. She's with her girlfriends and they are there with their children. So, it's not prescriptive. But it's that at the end of the day, moving from interest commitment, you have to put the time. You have to make the time. And if we're going to have our families go with us along our success, we just have to make the time. There is no two ways about it. It will be the method that will be different, but the end result will get there. So how do you calibrate your daily life? And you see, they say your success in anything has to be in your daily routine. You have to put something in your daily routine to be successful at it. It has to be part of your daily routine. So work-life balance has to be part of your daily routine, how you determine that. And no one can prescribe that for you. So for some people, it's saying, let me get a nanny. I know someone who got a nanny, a high-end nanny, so come and just have, she's not stressed out by that. So So there's just, like I said, there's no prescription. But for me, what has worked is my home runs on a system. So my home doesn't depend on a maid. Whichever maid is there, if the maid who looked after my firstborn in 2021 came home today, it would be plug and play. Everything she left is how we do it. Then I limit time on social media. Those things. Social media is I'm limited. TV and social media generally is a time waster. So, but some people feel that they can't do without social media. I got onto WhatsApp 5 years after WhatsApp was rolled out, and I didn't feel like I had missed out. Having a routine, incorporating rituals. So I have a bedtime ritual. I have rituals around meals. I have rituals around weekends. We have a routine that we follow so that things stay in order. I'm a very structured person, generally as a temperament, as character. So, but you'll need to have a system. You need to have processes. Let me just tell you about Kenya, Mountain, and then we open it up at this point. When I got the promotion to go to Kenya, and I need to say this as a caveat, I need to say a caveat on this. When I talk about my Kenya experience, my husband and my kids say, Grace, speak for yourself, as we had a fantastic time. So I want to say that this is about me. So I went to Kenya. The role involved flying out a lot. I had issues in my Tanzania dealing room, which I had to go solve. So at some point, there was a 6 weeks window in my life where I would leave on Sunday night and come back Friday evening. So I didn't get to see the girls as much. We would crisscross with David. Sometimes we'd be in Uganda and he's coming. We'd crisscross at Jomo Kenyatta Airport. And he's on the arrival side and I'm on the departure side, and we're speaking on phone. We're in the same airport, same place, but he's on the arrival and I'm departure because I'm heading off for Dar es Salaam and he's coming in to be with the kids. My husband is the fun parent. My children absolutely loved that time, apparently, because he broke all the rules. When I would travel for training, I would call David and the girls, and when they should be sleeping, they are awake. When they should be awake, they are asleep. They should be eating at this time. My system went out of the window, looks like in those times. And that's why the girls are like, Mommy, speak for yourself. They would tell me stories how one time, apparently at 8 p.m., he wants to turn on the TV and he realizes that the batteries are low. Instead of going and digging through, finding out where Grace has put her batteries, and making sure you leave everything in order, he put the kids in the car in their pajamas and drove them to a supermarket. This was like 6 kilometers away, and went and bought battery cells. And the children loved it. They were like, Mommy, we had a blast. We're in our pajamas. Daddy took us to the supermarket. And I'm thinking, David, what are you doing, my kids? Anyway, so that was a very, very tough time for me. Those 4 years, it was busy. I didn't spend as much time as I wanted with my kids. My one particular child, the youngest, I had her when I was a boss. So she really didn't, I just felt that she didn't know me, the mothering side as much, and I remember one time, towards the end of my time in Nairobi, I remember one time I was home and they were going to school, and one of my kids walked down the stairs. She had knee-high, knee-length socks, the knee, and there was a hole. And I said, Baby, what is that? She said, Mommy, it's a hole. I said, why are you going to school with a hole in your socks? She said, but Mommy, this was like 6 weeks into the term. I said, but Mommy, I've been going to school like this from beginning of term. Oh my God. I was shocked. I said, how did this even happen? I used to live, because of the Nairobi traffic, it's just a whole legend out there. Although now they've done the road, so it's much better. I would leave home at 5:30 a.m. My babies would be asleep. I would go into each of their rooms and go to the bed and kiss each of them and shake them up and say, shake them awake and say, I'm leaving now. Of course, they're half asleep. Yes, Mommy. And then I would come back by 4, go running. Then I start the routine of our system. Let's read They had to do some chores, then they had to read book, then they had to bathe, they had to have dinner, so I never had time to, go through. So we had a system where the maid would iron, but I would be the one to put away the clothes. So as I put away the clothes, that's how I run my home. I would audit the clothes. That's where I would see which ones are torn, which socks need replacing. But because I got so busy, the maid started putting away. I would take long to put away the clothes. So she said putting them away. I don't think she was checking, but also she was washing those clothes. But that's, you see, you can't blame the maid. That's my role. So I had those things. I thought to myself, Grace, what is this? So I went and checked. I did that. Right that day, I went and did an audit of my kids' uniforms. My God, torn pockets, missing buttons. I was like, Madam, wake up and recalibrate. This was towards the end of my stay. So when I came back to Kenya, I made a decision. I wasn't going to go back to work. And I also made a decision. My youngest, who hadn't known me as a mom, I was going to invest the time. So for 2 years, for her P2 and P3, I dropped her at school. I picked her. I took her lunch. We used to live 8 minutes from the school. I took her lunch. I really piled it on for that child to be able to know me and just to make up for my sins of the 4 years. But like I said, the caveat I told you, people are like, Mom, yes, we had a good time. That was you. Martin, I want to end it there and open it up for dialogue. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Mrs. Makoko. Grace Tibbs, as we know you from school, so that name also remains. Thank you very much for sharing with us. And one of the things I would like to note is that you have shared with sincerity and honesty. And people can see that you are telling the truth. You're not just creating things. Your weaknesses, the challenges that high-achieving women have with husbands that may not be in the same league. It's a real issue, and we must face it, talk about it, and find its solutions as well, because it's part of our work-life balance. This husband has to balance what people think outside, what they think about him outside, and what he really is. Because actually, it doesn't mean that that kind of husband is doing nothing to support the family. They are doing so much, giving the family its stability. But because people interpret and see things differently, one has to work through those challenges as well. But it's important that couples talk through these things, because they are not as big as we think they are. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I like the schedules, the strictness, and this comes from mentoring, actually. It's mentoring. Last time I rushed actually it was Saturday, I was posting on our parenting group. I went to my daughter's room and I was checking, have you laid your bed before you leave? Have you dusted your room? Have you, and she was really upset and said, but mommy, I have to do all those things. I said, no, I have to I have to supervise and see. I am raising a wife and a mother, and there are things that you never thought about, but you're like, my daughter, I don't want her to go among her in-laws and they are gossiping about her. Let me save her from that embarrassment. So there are so many things that we face, especially as mothers, as women, that we have to work through as we try to parent, as we try to balance work and home. So Grace, you have shared very sincerely. I like your routine, and it's still mentoring, and we can learn a few things, If you are not mentored that way, there is so much online that can mentor you. There are things that you can learn that will make your life work balance easier. One of them is routine and schedules. I like the idea of non-negotiables, and I think all of us need that clarity, making up your mind that the girls and David, we are going to go up with you no matter what. It's very critical. It's a very key thing. I have online Mrs. Shifrakiza. She's also a high achieving woman. Her and her husband live in Rwanda, and she runs a consultancy called Redwood, a leadership consultancy called Redwood. It's one of the big ones in Rwanda. And I just want to call upon her. She's a Nalongo also. I want to just call her and to just comment on Grace's presentation. What are the key things we can pick as people on call who desire to see that we balance the boat? Yes, thank you so much. Shifra, you're welcome.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you very much. Can you all hear me? Please give me a thumbs up if you can hear me clearly.
Here is the first one.
Great.
I can hear you very well.
Great. Thank you so much. Grace, first of all, thank you very much. Proud to say Grace was my head girl. So hearing her speak to us and share her life is such a privilege. Thank you so much, Grace. And I'm sorry, Catherine, I'm unable to put on my camera. So please allow me to speak without it, and I'll keep this brief.
It's okay.
Yeah, listening to Grace, I want to play back to one of the sessions when Catherine, you invited her to speak to us about parenting still. And one of the things I took away, I don't know how many of us were there, even before I comment on what I'm taking away from this. She talked about how she tried her best to teach her children first, even before the people that helped her in the house, housemaids, if you would call them. She says there is nothing her housemaids could do that she didn't teach her kids first, which I found very, very profound. Because sometimes with the busy lifestyle that we have, very easily, you will want to quickly have a house help do something and get everything organized. And in the process, we fail to train our children. That's something I wanted to highlight, Grace, so that you know it's never left. We are all work in progress. We're doing our best. And I like the way you talked about each of us looking into the mirror and looking at our unique situations. I think that's really important. And the example you gave about your colleague who is very social, who if she stayed home all day, she would be suffocated. But being able to find what works for us, but with a very clear strategy or structure and very clear non-negotiables. I think what you've really talked about here mostly is non-negotiables. And the challenge for us is to really sit down and re-audit ourselves and say, what are my non-negotiables as regards parenting, as regards wifing or husbanding? Because I see some men on the call as well. Another key element that you talked about that I found really great. I mean, we hear it all the time, monkey see, monkey do, monkey see, monkey do. But when you sit down and genuinely ask yourself, am I modeling what I would want my children to be 10 years from now? What I would want my daughter, what do I want to teach her? I can't just tell her. I must show her. And that's, I think, continues to be the challenge for us, especially as professionals. You're busy working, you're following not just money, honestly, because passion can override you. And I think for me, that's what happened in my case. I started the company when we moved to Rwanda, and I was overridden by passion. And in the process, I got to a place where I realized, oh my goodness, I'm dropping some of what used to be non-negotiables. And that can happen in different seasons of our lives. many times we start off well. I loved the idea of breastfeeding. Grace, that was also my story. I remember I resigned one of my first jobs at the time when I had a firstborn because my husband was away in school, and I needed to really pay attention to our son. But later on in life, they still need us, and we're catching up with our passions. And this, what I want to emphasize really is it grows on you, or it crawls in. It's not something you wake up and say, oh, I want to be a busy mother. No. Many of us are really passionate about our children, about our homes, about our husbands, but somehow, slowly by slowly, I don't want to sound too spiritual, but the devil kind of brings it in. And before you know it, if we don't have, not just have the non-negotiables, but regularly review them and make our decisions, allow our decisions to be driven by them, it's very easy for us to go off. And I really want to thank you, Mama Tendo, for these kind of sessions, because they help us to refocus, realign, rethink, how am I doing, and what do I want with this, when these children are 18. Just the other day, even as I close this, we were talking about training a child. And I was sharing with my husband, and we were talking about how do people train? And we were reviewing John Maxwell's model of training. And he says that when we train, we don't just tell. Make sure you pray, make sure you lay your bed, make sure you actually do it as they see you, step 1. Do it with them, step 2. Let them do it as you see them, and then we can flag them off. But I think what happens, that Grace is challenging us here, is we lose the practicability of mothering and parenting, and we are not present enough because of our work. But being able to find what works for us in our busy schedules, and when it's important to us, like they often say, we will make time. I thank you very much, Catherine. I think that for me those were the key highlights, and making the hard decisions too. Grace turned down 3 promotions. I mean, that's really paying the price for what matters, being able to pay the price. And what's more valuable? What could be more valuable than our families and our children? I'm sure if I asked any of us, that would be our gold. That's about it from me. Monkey see, monkey do. Pay the price. Let's have the non-negotiables, but let's review them regularly, and let's be intentional about actual training, not just telling our children or screaming at them and barking at them, but are we training them? That's my reflection. Thank you very much, Catherine.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shipra, for your sharings. And I know you are also a model to many. And I also know how hard you work to make sure that none of your balls falls out of your hands. It is work. It is I like what Grace said, it's a journey. It's not a destination. I would like to call any of the men or fathers online to give a comment before I call on Harriet Musoke, who worked with Grace Makoko as her HR at StanChat, to also give a comment on this topic and what Grace has presented. But I want now to get a man's perspective. Yes. I saw David Ruheza online. Are you still online? David Ruheza is my husband. Is he still online? So which other dad or father is on? Pardon?
Maybe there's David Babishahura.
Yes, please. That David. Let that David who's online, yes, give his thoughts.
Thank you, Mama Tendo. This is David Babishahura.
Yes, please.
I must thank Grace and the next speaker for being open and and giving us her story. I really learned and noticed that it's hard work to balance the two. It's hard work. Though I heard something, it sounds like her life was, so structured, so rigid. So that system she talks about. At home it's a system. At work it's a system. I found it too rigid in my mind. This is personal. To me, it's too rigid, and it's like you may live a life without life. I'm somebody who needs some free time, go out with the boys, and otherwise you live a life that's lifeless. That's my comment. Thank you. Otherwise, I'm grateful. It's been good.
Grace will come back to that question. Yes. Any other father and man on call who can give a comment? One of the things that we are doing in parenting is that we are not going to leave the men behind. And this one now they have no choice, whether they like it or not. In parenting advocacy now, we are going together because we've realized that concentrating on mothers is not giving us full results. So in any intervention we do in parenting, we have to make sure that at least a certain percentage, you know what they did in gender streamlining? They could gender streamline, and it has really worked. It has balanced certain things. That's how we are going to do in parenting. In every program, we have to make sure that there are men on board. They are not only on board, but actually they are participating, they are engaging, and they are giving their experience. That is the only way we are going to go forward in parenting. And that is the only way we are going to change the bad statistics we have in this country. What are the bad statistics? Delinquency, alcoholism, prison, all those bad statistics. Most of them are there, but mothers are there. So who changes the statistics? It's the fathers. So we want them on board. We want them sharing. We want to give them the audience. We want them to feel that it's okay for a man to support a family. And we really need them to change their bad statistics. So, Harriet, can you please give a comment about Grace's presentation? Thank you.
Yes, we can.
Muted, Mama Tendo.
Yes, we can hear you, Harriet. Okay, we can hear you.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And I think speaking after Grace is always an honor, but Grace is my personal friend, so I think I'll be very biased on my comments. But Grace, thank you so much for always sharing, and you're very, very consistent. I've had you over so many years talking about this topic, but you're very, very consistent in what you say. So for me, it makes you very, very authentic. But like you said, monkey see, monkey do. So there are some people who like to go out like me, and you've mentioned it, that I find a way of doing something that makes me happy, but still be able to parent my children. Grace is very, very intentional the way she has raised her children. And she even tells you, she's not ashamed to tell you that, Harriet, me, I'm intense. When I do something, I'm very, very intense. That's one. But one thing also Grace hasn't told you, Grace was an excellent worker. so that even if she missed any meeting after 5, even if people wanted to comment about her absence, they'll be like, but Grace, when she's at work, she gives it her all. So I think for me, the message I would give to parents is like, when you're at work, you're 8 to 5, make sure you really pitch in. Don't be on the phone always checking on the maids. And she's the one who told me that, Harriet, don't get maids from Chanamkaka. And with due respect, some of us come from Chanamkaka. Get maids that you pay well. And someone asked on the forum, what is a UN rate? The UN rate will depend on your family and your family budgets. Grace is one person who has taught us about financial independence. She's like, Harriet, you want to be financially independent, you have to put in the time, but you also have to save. Grace is the kind of person, when she talks about the husband, you really feel that the husband is the king of her house. But she's like, do you want to be treated like a queen? If you want to be treated like a queen, then you have to treat your husband like a king. So for me, with all due respect, yes, some people might hear Grace and say, but she doesn't have a life. Grace has a life, but she chose to be a doting mother. And I know all of us might want to be doting mothers, but that's what makes her happy. She likes to go home, put on buttons. In my case, I wouldn't put on the buttons. I don't want to cook, but I'll get someone who is a good chef and a good house manager who will do for me these things so that I concentrate my energies elsewhere. So Grace, thank you so much. You've taught me how to parent. I continue to learn from you, and thank you for always sharing. Monkey see, monkey do. And you've always said we have to create the examples that our kids will follow. So if our kids see us that we are never home or we are doing things differently, we don't respect our husbands, then the kids will also follow suit. So bad company, as we know, ruins the good morals that we want to put in our children. So thank you so much. I wouldn't want to be the guest speaker, but that's what I have to say, that Grace is very, very intentional on the way she parents her children and the way she follows her systems. And she's very, very disciplined. She has routines. There are some people who wake up and say, I don't know what my children are going to eat, or I don't know what I'm going to do for the day. Grace will tell you from 8 o'clock, this is what I'm going to do. On the weekend, Harriet, you won't see me. I won't even appear in church. Monday through Friday, I'll be in Standard Chartered. So that discipline and the routine, I think for me, also, it makes me happy. And I'm also a very structured person, but I still have a life. So it all depends on how you want to run your home. And if it makes you happy and you feel organized, why not? Follow what makes you happy. Follow you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Harriet, who I happen to know as well. She's also a very structured woman. She's also a very high-achieving woman. So when she says, I'm not like you, Grace, I'm really wondering how, because she's really also a very driven person. So it's very clear from what our speaker and contributors are saying, the issue of discipline, we must learn. There is no option about that. If we are going to balance home and family, there must be discipline, there must be schedules, there must be plans. We must take home seriously. I wonder, I think it's one of the seminars, Grace said, if we really plan to the workplace, to plan, and we are so organized at the workplace, how come in our homes we are so disorganized? And actually discipline is really followed by success. I was reading, some people are really too much. I was reading about a president in America. I don't know which one it is, but all I know, that is the president who had children with a black slave, right? I don't know, I've forgotten his name, but the American president, the white president whose wife died, I think, and he decided to have children with one of the black girls. He wouldn't marry her, of course, but they talk about this man's life, and I was like, how organized. it's like all his life, when he woke up from morning until he went to bed, he journaled where he was. He journaled every aspect of his life, what he did, how he spent each minute of his life. And this person writing this article was like, how, strict and organized can people be? But that is it. And he was a president. So it just shows us that there is a big reward if we invest in being disciplined at home, and as parents. There is someone who said they wanted to give a comment, that someone wrote and said that she had observed Grace. She works with her husband, David Makoko, and he wanted to give a comment. Is that person on? Yes, Samuel, I can see your hand up, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to speak. Is that person online? Do you want to give that comment? Okay. Can I please have Mr. Samuel Sechiveja? Yes, please.
Yes, Mama Tendo. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Samuel Sechiveja is my name. That's a unique name, so it was difficult even for you to pronounce. Have you ever heard of it? But I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Mama Tendo, and to thank Mrs. Issa Abidie, who introduced me to this wonderful team of people, Mama Tendo Group. It's an honor and I'm blessed. So when you talked of, when you asked fathers, and I had on one father, I was like, no, I have to also represent the rest of the fathers who are not around. And I'm happy that you're saying that you want to add men. That is very, 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 very important. And it will be something that will help us, all of us, to bring up our children together. Madam Grace, thank you so much. I've really taken, a time to note down each and everything that you are saying. We men, we are hunters. We are known to be hunters for the family. Too busy that we hardly have time. You can see this is evident when it comes to, children's visitation. It's always mothers. And I want to applaud Mama Tendo for what you've just said previously, that the inclusion of men into this platform. It's always been a girl child. There's always been empowerment of a girl child neglecting the boy child. Because at the end of the day, this empowerment of a girl child we are doing, we forget that tomorrow, the boys whom we are neglecting are going to be the husbands. But to put that aside, going back to Madam Grace, thank you for being intentional. I think this takes us to be intentional. What is between us as a father and as a mother, the ultimate goal we have for our families. If we have the same goal, the same vision for our families, I believe we can make, better families. And it goes back to our childhood, how we are brought up, what we've seen when we are growing up. I love the analogy of monkey see, monkey do. All the challenges that we are facing in families is due to that. Monkey see, monkey do. So I want to say thank you so much. I've learned a lot. And I've been in a Kamoli, Mama Tendo in your group, but I'm now going to be active since you said you need men. So I'm going to be more active because I've always been seeing, women commenting, and we are here in Kamoli as men seeing. So thank you so much. Those are my comments. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you very much. Yes, can we open up for about 3 questions or 4 questions quickly? We already have one question. Someone was saying to you, Grace, that the schedule seems to be rather so rigid. Do you enjoy life? Do you, Yeah, that was one question that we have. Can we have another question quickly?
Mama Tendo.
Yes, please.
Reverend Ali Ochan wants to contribute.
Okay.
I think Reverend, please unmute.
Yes, he
I've
can't unmute.
unmuted.
Okay. Yes, Reverend Ochan, I wasn't seeing you, sorry.
I've unmuted.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Saying he was a loser. I was also in that space when I had to leave my job to look after my child. And it was a very difficult experience for me as a man, losing the job completely and yet home doing a lady's task. But what helped me was the woman reaffirming me and making me, if I can use the word, the husband at home. That one was very helpful, and that has helped me overcome the stress that comes with that. So thank you very much, Grace. Of course, I remember we finished university together. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you very much, Reverend Ali. Yes, you are doing a critical job, and
The
you're also
Lord bless you. Are finished.
Yes, you are also a husband to a high achieving woman. And I think what is really coming out, even in our submission, is that this is a real issue. Sometimes as women, we may not understand it actually. Maybe we cannot really enter into that psychology by our nature that we are women. We may not be able to really understand what the men go through. But what I know that it's good to talk about it and to know that it is something that is not, someone is not a loser, because they are doing that. So it's quite interesting to see the submission that fathers and men are making about this. And as I said, I'll repeat that we are going to be quite very intentional in our programs as Mama Tendo Foundation, in including the participation of men, because studies show us, or evidence-based parenting shows us, that it's men who will change the statistics. That is the involvement of men, which is going to change the bad statistics of children, from depression, from bad grades at school. There is a component that is missing that we really need to get to. So thank you very much. Yes, can we have 2 more questions, please?
Michael,
Hello?
please unmute. Yes.
Can I speak now?
Yes,
Go
please.
ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. Michael.
Okay. Yeah, this is
Lukoma.
Mr. Michael. Thank you, Grace and Mama Tendo, for this very wonderful presentation. My name is Michael Lukoma. I'm married to Rachel Lukoma, and we are parents of quadruplets, multiples, 4 children who are now 5 years old. I just had a question, especially for the men and maybe also for Grace and for Mrs. Makoko and for Shifra. What kind of things would you suggest for the men to improve on that work-life balance? Do you have any 2 or 3 suggestions? I know you said every family is individual, but I'm thinking since you've had some success with it, that you could advise some of us who are still, it's a work in progress and we're still learning. So how can the men be involved better in this work-life balance? Then my other question was, how do we counter the negative effects of the school on our children? Because I feel that, we read Bibles, verses with them, we teach them what we can, but they spend such a big time of their day at school that you still find them picking up bad habits, negative statements, bad words. Just wondering, how that can be counteracted.
Okay. Thank you so much. How can men practically balance? Then the last question, please. Someone had raised their hand, a man also, but he disappeared.
Okay. Mama Tendo. Mama Tendo.
Yes, please. I can hear you.
There is someone on the chat that she Grace that had asked to make a comment.
Yes.
Maybe put up your hand so that we can easily locate you. Is that Julia Oloch? Julia Oloch?
Oh, yes. I think it must be. Julia. Julia Oroch. Maybe she's just dropped off. Julia?
Julia, please unmute.
Mrs.
Yes,
Oroch?
yes, my name is Julia Oloch. Hi, Grace. Grace was a roommate, schoolmate, roommate, head girl, and I happen to work with her husband. And I just want to make a comment to comment. Grace, your rigorous schedule or strict schedule has paid off, even in David's life. David is one of our bosses here at work. And we must say that he's a person of character. He's a man of principle. He's very, very strict on discipline. And he's a go-getter. He has still remained as an alpha male, because there was a gentleman who commented and felt that, okay, that comment that you say David made when you people were traveling to Nairobi, that I hope I'm not losing out on this. I feel that the more you've followed through that path, David has become the best that you can imagine him. And we know we are yet to see even more. So I don't think it's I refuse to think that that it's too much. I feel it has rubbed onto your husband. And yes,
Nice.
it has rubbed onto your husband, and David is on top of his game. He's on top of his game. Your children are an example, even here at the workplace. Your children are an amazing example. And the other thing I wanted to comment was that Grace should not, some of the comments she's made about not attending church for certain seasons of time should not delude us. Grace is one of the most prayerful people I know. She's very prayerful. She's of the scriptures. She knows the word like you. You can't believe it. So thumbs up, and that you're doing very well, Grace. You're doing very well, because if you were doing that and it was a different story when it came to your husband, then it would be, it would be like, it's not working. No, it's working. It has worked, and you've done excellently. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much, Mrs. Oroch, for that comment. It's good when people who are close to you give good comments about you, because sometimes people who are close to us get to see what we really are, and sometimes it's not easy getting someone who can give good comments about you. So thank you very much. Yes, I want to ask Grace to answer, to give answers to the questions that are.
Okay, I was failing to unmute. Yeah, I dropped off, and unfortunately I didn't hear the comments of the last speaker because I had been kicked off. So I don't know what was saying or who was saying. So I just had
There were
you.
nice comments.
Oh, I can take that. I'll leave with that. I just had you saying,
Yeah,
"Oh, it's good
they
someone
were
can give a
saying
testimony."
that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, she was saying
Yes.
that they see what you are doing in your husband at the workplace. They are seeing. So it shows that as a couple, somehow you have helped each other grow in the same direction. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll take the first question. I don't know if David is still on the call. I hope he is. David is the one who gave the. David, I don't know if you're there. Is the one who gave the
Yes,
suggestion
he is.
around.
He's online.
Okay. Okay. So.
Babishakura.
Yes. So just to respond to David, and I said it in my opening comments about know thyself. David, I absolutely enjoy wifing and mothering. It's not drudgery. I don't come and I'm sulking. Soke said, that's who I am. And that's what I love. For me, it's Maki Si Maki Do. My mom celebrated being a homemaker, celebrated being wife. She celebrated wifing and mothering. I absolutely celebrate it. So I'm having that time on my life. What you see as rigidity and what is just what God made me for. I'm wired that way. So, David, I never feel that I want to go out for movies and what, and I need to tell David this story. So one day my daughter, she was about 9, one of my girls, she saw me, I was at home, I was in the horizontal position, I was in a chair, I was watching a CNN, and then I was watching Global Public Square, Farid Zakari, he came on, Zakaria, and I got my notebook and I started writing and I was telling them, shh. And she looked at me with so much, she was with disapproval and said, Mommy, when do you enjoy your money? If this was Daddy, he would be taking us horse riding, swimming, would be going out. You're here, you've told us you want to rest, and you're watching TV, and now you're writing notes. You don't even know how to enjoy your money. I laughed. I mean, it was just coming from a child. I think she was seeing me and saying, this intense person. This was when she was 9. Now, this child is 20, and she's the one who goes around telling her friends that my mom is such an excellent mom and a good wife. I know in Proverbs 31, the Bible says when the lady has done all those things, said her children wake up and praise her, her husband also. For me, that made my day. As in, I'm like, she's come full circle and she's saying, Mommy, there's no mom like you. But at that point, she was seeing me and saying, Mommy, you're supposed to be relaxing. You're telling us, shh, as you're writing things. Because he was saying something that was going to affecting the markets and what. And I'm a markets person. I needed to hear it. So, David, the rigidity sounds, I suspect David is an extrovert. Because extroverts are the ones who always give me that comment that when do you have fun? When do you go out? Me, when I'm wifing and mothering, I'm having the time of my life. And that's why I said, know thyself. I'm talking about being extroverted. Yeah, if you're extroverted, do what makes you happy, because it won't help you to be at home unhappy, forcing issues to wife and mother, and you're unhappy. Your children need a happy mom. But you have to know that there is no shortcut to raising kids. You have to spend time. There's just no shortcut. Reverend Ali was just a comment. He was just making a contribution, and so I'll not add to that. Michael Lukoma, you talked about how do you want to give suggestions for men on the work-life balance. And I just also want to loop in to string it to what David asked. Michael, as a couple, you have to find, you said, as a couple, you have to find what works for you. But statistics show that for children to be balanced, they need their dad in their life. Newsweek did a study about the fatherless home and say that the one thing in the US, especially among the blacks, the women are there, they all talk about, I have a praying mother, I had a praying grandmother, but the boys are in jail, they're doing drugs, and because the dads are in jail, so they're not there for their kids. So a dad, you don't have to be at home. God hasn't wired men to be detailed. You're not naturally, but your presence. One thing God has given you, which we don't have, is authority. I'm a very tough mom, but it can take when my husband shows up. What I have been trying to get the girls to do for 2 hours He just comes, the door opens, and everything starts falling in place. I'm like, God, you need to give that to me, but God has given men authority. That's what men have. He clears his throat and everything falls in place. So I think, Michael, what I would recommend is for you to be present, to have hours when you're present, and to be. A parent was telling me how their daughter said to them, their dad is physically present but emotionally absent. So you have to also be emotionally present and find rituals. There are things I don't think a dad has, but my dad, it's still, like I said, monkey see, monkey do. My dad was a dad, very introverted also. So he worked in Kampala, we lived in Entebbe. He left home at 7 a.m. and came back by 6 p.m. But my dad when he was at home, he was at home. And he also had some things he did. So like and I do it, I've put it as a system in my home, but I'm copying from my dad. When you brought back your report, my dad went through the report with you. As soon as you entered from school with your report card, as you are kneeling down to greet him, he would be putting out his hand like this, like sort of, don't greet me, just give me that report. Then he would greet you. My dad was very affectionate. He would sing. My dad was also, he enjoyed taking a glass or two from his bottle of cheer. So when he was high, he would sing songs about us. It was so annoying. He'd compose songs in the moment. And he'd compose a song about your report. And in the song, there would be that, this grace of mine. He would sing to us in our mother tongue. And it's this grace of mine. She's so good in chemistry, or she's so good in math or something. And he would say, did you see her marks? It was most annoying at the time, but it was just such, you knew that daddy cared. And he would read from the report. My dad would ask you, but in physics last term, he doesn't have the physics report, but he has done of this time, doesn't have the last term. How come in physics last time you got 78? This time I'm seeing 67. And he took the time to go through the report. My dad, always, if you were crying or something upset you, he would put you on his lap. My dad was very, very chauvinist, so he wasn't a softie, but he would put you on his lap and say, oh, and sing, oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear. And then when you're trying to talk, he says, no, I want you to first calm down. Then you tell him what, then he says, no, don't worry, it's going to be okay, and go off. My dad wasn't with us 24/7, but he was there. When he was home, he was present. My dad was into current affairs, and that's where I am very, very into current affairs. He would be sitting, listening to BBC, and he would call us, come and listen to this news item. He supported Republicans and the Tories. So I'm a Republican supporter and a Tory supporter for the UK. Then he would give you the background that this is what Reagan has done. This is what Margaret Thatcher has done. It would just be small things. My dad would be eating sugarcane outside, and my dad would come and say, yes, that's what men will do to you if you let them sleep with you before they marry you. They're going to suck out the sugarcane, the juice, and throw you aside. He'd just throw that comment and go away. Then he'll come and say, yeah. But he was present. I don't think dads should be there. The exception is that you're there 24/7, because most of the times the dad is a bread earner, most times, not all the time, but the major bread earner. But to be there to read the Bible, you can say, read the Bible with the children, that my husband does. So what I do when my children's reports come, they come online, we print them, and my husband goes through the reports with them. So you just have to find little things where you can be present physically and emotionally. Like I told you, for my kids, their dad is the fun parent. Mommy is too intense and she's at home wifing and mothering, so he's the one who takes them out and breaks all the rules. One time I came back from travel and my child was reporting to me. She felt it was wrong. She said, Mommy, when you were away, Daddy gave your baby cake. I said, which baby? And then she pointed at herself, me and also the young sister. But so he would, but they enjoyed, him breaking the rules. And opposites attract, to David's point. To the extent that I'm intense, my husband is spontaneous. So he balances that out for the girls. So, Michael, I think to just pick 2 or 3 things and you say, in a week, this is what I do with the kids. And it's your thing for you and dad. Like my kids know, I'm not into TV. And I used to restrict my kids, you could only watch 2 hours of TV a week. And that's why my children are ferocious readers. 2 hours TV a week. But once the youngest got to age 10, time spent watching TV with daddy was not among the 2 hours. So the way they would wait for their dad, they would say, Daddy, what time are you coming back? Daddy, what time are you coming back? Daddy, are you going to come back? Why? They're like, when daddy is here, and he's into cartoons like them. There's a station, Tsunami, on Star Times, which he likes. And you find him watching these cartoons very seriously with the kids. But they will, Daddy, when are you coming back? Because they know that TV time with daddy doesn't count among their 2 hours. So you can pick something that you'll do with the kids. If you have boys, pick something, wash the car with them, go to a football match with them, as in, and then you have to pick where you go for that football match because there can't be people there using 4-letter words. So I would say that dads, for you to get into that work-life balance, just pick what you will do. Pick something that is for you and is your ritual with your kids. And mommy, because my dad, my husband will say, Grace, this TV time with me shouldn't count in the 2 hours. He's going to put that rule. It was not me. Because I was telling David, they finished their 2 hours. He said, the one with me doesn't count. And I was like, okay. He wasn't there many times for it. I was like, let them enjoy, have that fun. So I would say that being intentional, you can say Saturdays, I'm the one who looks after the children. Sundays are for me, let my wife rest. That's how you can contribute to work-life balance. And in that time, you do something with the kids. Because for me, in all the time I was breastfeeding, I never ever did night duty, even once. David Izano did. We have 3 kids. He did every night duty. So I have, God bless me, I have a lot of breast milk. I would just express, put bottles in the fridge. That whole night time, my husband would if the child is awake, he would give them a bottle. My husband is into guitar, playing the guitar. So when the kids are having colic, he's the one, he plays the guitar and they bully him. So when he stops, you hear the child, then he starts again playing until the baby drops off. So there are so many ways you can contribute according to your strengths and according to your schedule. You say you just have to be present. I was telling a friend of mine who was moving her child to international, so I said, do not put, and I beg you by the mercies of God, anyone who is under the hearing of my voice, do not send your children to international school if you do not have time to parent them. You are going to lose your child. The typical parent of an international school child has no time to parent. So they bring up Jadens, brats, kids who are just on gadgets. They compensate for time by giving their children everything they ask for. They compensate for the lack of time. So you send your child to international school at your own risk, peril, and utter disillusionment. If you don't have time to parent, they are going to pick up things. So that's something I'll put out there. And the issue is not the international school. It's that type of parent who sends their child to international school is busy. They are busy and they bring up Jadens. They don't have time and they compensate by giving the children everything they are guilty parents who compensate by giving their children everything. One of my daughters had a roommate in school, a friend in school, who as soon as Steve Jobs stood on the stage and released something in Apple, that week the child would get the gadget, the iPhone or the iPad. The next week, because Apple and Samsung compete, the next week Samsung would release something. In that week, the child would get the Samsung thing. Those children are losers. And the Bible says, not be deceived, bad company ruins good morals. Those are the children who your children are hung out with. So pick the school very carefully. If it's Christian-based, that helps a bit, like I said, a bit. But you send your children to international school at your own risk, peril, and utter disillusionment if you do not have time to parent. That's what I can say on that one. I think, Tendo, that covers what I had.
Thank you very much. That has been so helpful. Those additional comments have been so helpful. Yeah, and I just want to say is high connection activities. Dads, as Grace has said, what activities? They are high connection activities. Now, research shows us in parenting that if a parent does, especially a dad, they will connect, you know, especially when a child emotionally needs support. For example, taking them to the hospital, seeing the doctor with them, you know, sitting and the doctor explains to you, comforting them when they are getting the injection. There are those high connection activities, high emotional activities. Dads get into that space because most times you have left it for mothers. But actually, I would like also to add that it is that connection is not only for the child. It's not the child benefiting, because now we are seeing very many lonely old men, you know. Someone was telling me a sad story. It was like, you know, we are over the men of valor or somewhere. He says, we just sat and said, now, you know, you are there at home and your wife has gone to America to look after her daughter who gave birth, and she's there for 6 months, 7 months. The old man is in the house alone. There is no connection. So what we are saying is that actually this is not only about the child, it's also about you. You know, you are securing your old age where you will be engaged and not left behind. Many men are dying early, you know, a few years after retirement, they cannot survive. And that is because they've been emotionally starved, or they've starved themselves of connection with their children, things that will make them feel happy, people who would support them in their times of old age, of sickness, are not there because they have not connected. So, yes, God being wise as He is, He's telling us to get engaged, not only for the benefit of children, but also for our own benefit. So it's not a lose-lose, it is a win-win all the way. And yes, so that is what I would like to end with. We are celebrating Women's Day on Friday, on Saturday actually, I think, because Friday is 7th, right? Is it? So we are celebrating Women's Day, and I would like to take this opportunity to wish all the women on call happy Women's Day on Saturday. Personally, I'll be at Braca Bank giving a talk about women and the workplace. So if you are working there, I'll be there with you on Friday.
Seems that we have temporarily lost Mama Tendo. Okay, you're back, Mama Tendo. Grace, is it okay to ask you one or two burning questions?
Sure, please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. One is that at what age should one safely say that the kids don't need that much time so that you can let go and start running, say, with your career and so on? And then could you comment about children and boarding school? Yeah, just those two quick ones.
Okay, so you know, they say youth runs from 15 to 35 years old. So I'm always telling myself and my kids that the jury is still out on my kids as long as they're not yet 35. Okay, so I don't think you can put they need that their needs change, but they still have needs. So yeah, just have to bear that in mind, that especially in the age of social media, our children need a lot of guidance, and they need to have someone they can come and talk to. So yeah, maybe in terms of, because now from a physical time need, they might not need me as much, but now they even need me more emotionally, and I really have to maximize every time. My youngest is 16, my oldest is 23, but I have to maximize every moment to hear the things that are not being said, and to see the things that are. So yeah, so it will, I don't think, that's why I said it's not a destination, it's a journey. And yes, you keep recalibrating. Boarding school is one of those things also. Generally, you just need to pick very, very carefully the school you're taking your children to, and then to find a way to just plug in with them. I mean, day school, boarding school, it still comes down to you finding time. So of course, there will be less time if they're in boarding school, but you can still pull it off. But it's hard to be prescriptive in these things. You also have to know your children. I would say that's a whole other topic, my dear. It's a whole other topic that I can speak on, because my children have been in day school and in boarding school, and I've had two different experiences, and I've had to put things in place. Like for boarding school, I must speak to my children every single day. They must call me, or I must call them. And I started it early so that it's now a ritual. We speak every day. And it's amazing in those between 10 to 30 minutes what I'm able to glean. I see them every 3 weeks at a minimum. Yeah, so but that's a whole other topic, I guess, in terms of going into how I've done mine. And yeah, so I would say that it's very hard to be prescriptive, but yeah, so my children need me less now that they're older in terms of physical presence. But remember, because it's monkey see, monkey do, I have to be doing these things so they are seeing them. So in 2020, my kids said, we shouldn't have a maid. They don't want a maid. So we do our work ourselves. They could only say that because I had trained them to work. We don't have a maid. They're like, Mommy, that maid is cramping. That maid cramps our space. So we do, you see, but then they have to see me at work, at home, active. I don't sit down and say, bring me this, bring me that, do that. So because of monkey see, monkey do, and we learn from modeling, you still have to model behavior when they're at home. You can't be on TV the whole time. You can't be on your phone the whole time. You can't, they're just things you have to set an example, whether it's in cleanness, whether it's in how tidying their rooms, just what they do, how they do go about, how they see you wifing and mothering, because they're going to run their homes the way I'm running mine, because I'm running mine the way my mom ran mine. My mom ran hers the way my Jaja ran hers. So I don't think it ends, but maybe the intensity of it reduces. It ebbs and flows. One of the things I did to redeem time that was spent in boarding school, my children do a gap year between S6 and university. So after you finish S6, we are with you for a year at home. So we see what product we have to see what we are sending to the UK. We can be sending Amsege, and we don't know.
Yeah. Wow, thank you very much, Grace. That's been insightful, very helpful. I'll just add that depending on the stage of children, because young children someone was telling me, I send my children from P1 to boarding school. We really need to rethink that, knowing the development stages of the children and their need, and the need for bonding and connection. We did it, most of us, when boarding school from P1, but I've not sent any of my children to boarding school. I've stayed with them at home. And doesn't mean that a person who has sent them to boarding school has done anything wrong, but one, we need to think of the early years and what that child needed, the bonding and the attachment and all those things, because now we are informed not only by our own emotions, but we are also informed by research and findings. So think through it, parents, and make the right choice. So we thank God for this opportunity to learn. I really like learning because I know that things are dynamic now. Decisions are being made. We are evaluating ourselves. We are assessing ourselves. We are making some good decisions, and that is very good. This is what such a good talk does to each one of us. I would like to ask, I can see Barbara Katende online. Can you please say for us a final?
Catherine, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, Barbara.
Okay, glad to be here. I'm so excited to meet you again. And like I said the other time, one of my sons is called Tendo. So, of course, I'm Mama Tendo Senior. Since you are behind me in Gayaza, I'm Mama Tendo Junior. Grace, thank you so much. Grace was my classmate in Gayaza. She was our head girl, and what a privilege of having walked part of my life with Grace. She's an inspiration to all of us. And Grace, thank you so much. You're always, always, always raising the bar. So let's humble ourselves to pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. Father, you said in your word, where 2 or 3 are gathered, Lord, you'll be in our midst. And Father, we thank you because we know that you've been with us here, because we are more than 2 and we are more than 3. We thank you for the wisdom that you bestowed on Grace and also Catherine for beginning this forum. We thank you for the words that have been spoken today. We thank you that our lives are not going to be the same. There is a lot that we have learned, and we're going to go back and change and modify. And we thank you that we are work in progress because we are humans and we keep changing and we keep learning. We thank you for the fathers who are on this forum. And we thank you for the move towards involving fathers more, such that we can walk this journey, husband and wife, to bring up our children into the next generation. Father, as we part today, be with us, give us journey mercies for some of us who have to walk home, to get home. And whoever is going to sleep, Father, let us sleep in your arms, guide us, protect us. We thank you for everything, for we've prayed all this, believing and trusting in Jesus' name. Amen.
Mama Tendo, you're muted. You're muted.
Oh, sorry. I was saying, thank you so much, everyone. It's been a great joy having you this Sunday afternoon. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Grace, we are really proud of you. My suggestion is like you really need to do a lot of mentoring, especially for young women. I don't know, you really need to mentor more because we need your wisdom shared. And all the contributors, I'm so grateful. So I wish you the best Women's Day on Saturday. See you, you can switch on your camera and wave as you go. Thank you very much. See you then next time.